So, a few weeks ago, wait, was it seriously it was like 3 weeks ago. How does time fly this fast? Anyway, a few weeks ago, my family went away on a holiday vacation. We had a really, really good time. However, the place we were going to kind of has a reputation of being incredibly rainy. Like the type of torrential downpour that is so intense where the water will be soaked through past your ankles. And the rainfall will last either like half an hour or it won't stop and it'll be going through the rest of the day. I remember a very long time ago, probably like a decade ago to be honest, we were leaving the resort we were at and we had to lug our luggage from the back of the resort to the front of the resort to reach the bus that would take us back to the airport. And that day it was torrential downpouring. So we were walking like probably a good mile in water that was soaking my pants up into my ankles. So, anyway, I digress. We were staying at a place that is known for being very rainy. And despite this, during this particular trip, we were there for like 10 days and by like day 5, there was no rain. And I personally was actually very hopeful and thought that we were going to get through the whole trip without any rain because there was no forecast for rain that week and it seemed relatively dry. So I was like, oh, hey, we might actually luck out and not have to deal with any torrential downpours this week. So, anyway, when this particular story takes place, we were around, I think, either day 5 or 7 of our trip. I'll be honest, I don't remember exactly when because the whole trip's kind of blurring together in my head, but that's a whole other story. But anyway, what I can say for certain is that during this particular day, we had tickets for a show that night, and the show was going to be outside. And if there was thunder and lightning, if it was just rain, it wouldn't be canceled. But if it was thunder and lightning, the show would be canceled. Understandably, because it's not safe to run that show in lightning, and honestly, I think they should probably cancel it even if it's raining because it's outdoors, and in my opinion, I think it could be a safety hazard, but I'm not the showrunner, so what do I truly know? So I digress. So on that particular day, we woke up and we found out that unlike the other days, there was a little bit more of a forecast for rain, but it was like a 50-50 forecast, like flip a coin kind of situation. And up until that point, once again, this trip had been relatively dry, so I was really thinking like, hey, maybe the rain will hit earlier in the day, but I don't think we have to worry about the show being canceled or anything like that because it's just not been something that we really were experiencing up until that point. We left our hotel room and we went to the place we were going to be going to that day. And we just kind of went about our day for the most part. We did some different activities, we tried some food, we were having a good day. And I'll be honest, there were some signs that it could potentially rain. But once again, for the most part, it was a relatively hot day and very dry. So I thought really did think that we were in the clear and that nothing was going to happen. And then it started raining. Well, kind of. It was only a slight drizzle at that point. We were going about our day, and then all of a sudden the skies opened up and a little rainstorm came forward. But it ended relatively quickly. It only lasted like half an hour. And after it happened, my brain went, okay, there you go. There's our rain. So, yeah, we're definitely good. By the time the show goes off tonight, there won't be any rain. The rain happened. We're safe. We continued about our day, went on a couple more attractions. At that point, we had stopped trying food because later that night, to a little bit of context, to go to the show that we wanted to see, you had to get a ticket. And the tickets were being sold through a restaurant. It's kind of difficult to explain, but essentially, a bunch of restaurants had partnered with the show, and if you went to one of their restaurants, you could get a ticket to the show. So that's what we were doing. That's how we were planning on getting our tickets. So we did a few more things, and then eventually we went to go to our dinner to get our tickets. I want you guys to imagine the juxtaposition between when we went into the restaurant versus when we left the restaurant. So when we went in, it was beating hot outside. I was sweating a storm. It was so hot. And when we finally got into the building where the restaurant was, it was cool and it was refreshing, and it was like a break from the scorching sunlight that was outside. We went and we had our dinner. And then after like an hour, we were in there for probably about an hour-ish. It was a really yummy meal. We finished up. We left. And when we got to the doors to leave the restaurant, the sky was gray and it was downpouring. I don't even really fully know how to describe the type of rainfall that was awaiting us outside. It was like the whole place was flooded. Like that's like it was like there was a small like river running across the park, created by just sheer rainwater. Along with the rain, it was also windy, which I think made things worse because it wasn't just like, downpours. It was also the wind taking the water and throwing it across the park. And finally, because rain itself was not enough, we suddenly heard a loud bam and boom, and there was thunder. There was thunder as well. So, at this point, it looked like the show was going to be canceled. However, there were still a few more hours before the show was supposed to set off. And we had, at this point, already gotten the tickets, and the tickets were not refundable. So, despite the torrential downpours, the whole park kind of turning into a water park, we were going to try to wait it out in hopes that the rain might stop and the show might go off. Or at the very least, the show might be delayed and then go off a little late. So, in other words, we were going to try to stick it through. However, despite the fact that we were going to try to stick it through, that really didn't mean that we wanted to just be hanging out in rainwater for the next who knows how many hours. So we were trying to be strategic, and we remembered that near where the restaurant was is a tiny indoor theater that played a show that was indoors. So our next move from getting from the restaurant was going to be getting to that theater. However, that was still going to be difficult because despite the fact that the theater was close by, we were still going to have to trek through all the rainwater. And once again, I really need to explain, the rainwater was really, the place was flooded. Like, I remember when we were doing the walk, I had to walk up a flight of stairs that was outside. And the flight of stairs was almost like a mini waterfall. I remember when walking up it, I was trying to pay attention to my surroundings because obviously I was walking up a flight of stairs that was throwing buckets of water at me while trying to walk up it. So while I was walking, it was either when I was walking up the stairs or right before I was walking up the stairs, I turned and looked to my right and I saw there was a drain. And despite the fact that the drain was, doing its job and draining the water, there was still like a good foot of water above the drain that was just circling the drain because there was so much water. There was like a foot of water just there. And then when we finally got into the theater and was capable of taking our ponchos off and trying to dry off a little bit. My pants were soaked through up into my knees. That's how intense this rainfall was, because I've gone through water and I've gone through rainfalls, and sometimes my shoes will get wet if I'm wearing my poncho, but not like it was soaked through up into my knees. After we went to the theater and we finished the show there and we left the theater, we went outside, or right before going outside, because it was still torrential downpouring, it was still thunder and lightninging, and that's kind of when we looked at it and went, okay, yeah, this show is not going to go off tonight, and we concede, because we did not want to be hanging out in torrential downpours for the rest of the night that were so bad it was like soaking through the poncho. However, getting back to our hotel was also going to prove difficult, because the typical means of transportation between the place we were currently at and the hotel we were staying at was closed due to the water, due to the rainfall, because it was actually not safe to run. So, to leave, we then kind of hit this new issue where we knew we weren't going to be able to see the show or stay or really do any of the more fun activities, but we weren't certain if it was safe to leave the park or smart to leave the park either, because leaving the park meant having to trudge through all this water to find a bus to take us back home, because the typical means of transportation was closed for the night. And personally, I'm very sensitive to water. I don't like the feeling of it. It's like sensory. Water is like sensory hell to me, specifically water in a poncho. I should rephrase that. It's not water that's sensory hell to me, it's actually the poncho being on me that's sensory hell to me. So, after a little bit of debating, what ended up happening is half of my group went to trek through the water to get back to the hotel, while I and one other member of my party, we ended up staying to do a fusion of Christmas shopping, and also, since it was thunder and lightning outside, that meant that the show was going to be completely canceled, and anyone who had gotten a ticket for the show would get like a partial refund for it, so we were going to stay back to try to get the refund and get things together and hope that we could get that all worked out, and then hope that the rain would calm down by the time that we actually need to head out. And then after that, we split up, and me and this other person within my group, we would cut through buildings to try to avoid the rainfall as best we could, because it was still very intense rainfall. And honestly, the night was kind of boring after that. We got a refund, we did some Christmas shopping, and then fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, when the night was over and the park was closing, that's when the rain stopped. However, I can't complain too much about it. I know this video was kind of venti, but it was just kind of because, honestly, in my opinion, it's a funny memory now. The intensity of the rain was just unhinged. It was still a really fun trip. I had a really good time, and a little bit of rain didn't ruin it. I was a little disappointed. Actually, no, I was very disappointed that we couldn't see the show. I really wanted to see the show, but it is what it is. I'm hoping sometime in the future we can go there again and hopefully see the show when it doesn't get rained out. But overall, it was a really good day, even with the rain. A bit about the art that is in this video. So I joined a bunch of Secret Santa art trade things, and this one is for a particular group chat Discord server I'm in for Flight Rising. The character in the picture is owned by the Flight Rising user natsinabucket and is gift art of her dragon. I had a really fun time drawing her character, and I found this drawing was a little bit challenging, but I really enjoyed that. It was an intense drawing to draw. I'm not used to drawing dynamic poses. I've kind of gotten very lazy with my poses, so this drawing was challenging in a fun way. Anyway, yeah. I hope everyone has a very Merry Christmas, a Happy Holidays, and or had a happy holidays at the time. I am making this video on Christmas Eve, but I know by the time it comes out, it's going to be past Christmas Day. So I hope everyone had a good holiday, and yeah. Fare thee well, and make sure you subscribe to prevent grease fires.